Welcome back, fellow seekers of the shadows. You've tuned into Stories of Crime, the place where the veil between the mundane and the monstrous is brutally ripped away. Tonight, we aren't just reading a report. We are opening a file, marked top priority, tucked away in the darkest corner of the archives. We're going to step across that chalk line and peer into the void, where human nature meets its most terrifying extremes. In this hour, the street lights flicker, the shadows deepen, and the truth is often far more chilling than any fiction you could invent. Forget the heroes. Tonight, we focus on the villains. On the motives that curdle the blood, and the consequences that echo forever. So, dim the lights. Lock your doors. Take a deep, steadying breath, because once the story begins, there's no turning back. This is Stories of Crime. And the case we're unfolding tonight is Governmental Responses to Crime. Look. The Illusion of Safety vs. The Reality of Control. Welcome, esteemed reader, to a journey into the very heart of how societies grapple with the shadowy specter of crime. This isn't just another dry academic text. This is an invitation, a challenge, a deep dive into the sometimes uncomfortable truths about the world we built around the concept of safety. We live in an era constantly promising us security, an era where the clamor for protection often drowns out the quiet whisper of liberty. And it's here, at this critical juncture, where we begin our exploration. This chapter, this crucial opening, is titled Hook, The Illusion of Safety vs. The Reality of Control. It's designed to do precisely that, to hook you, to grab your attention with a question so fundamental, so unsettling, that it demands your continued engagement. Because what we're about to dissect isn't merely policy, it's the very fabric of our social contract, the unspoken agreements we make as citizens, and the often unseen consequences of those agreements. Let's start with a provocative question, one that might feel instinctively wrong to some, but one that absolutely must be asked: do more laws actually equal less crime? Think about that for a moment. Take a breath. We live in societies that, seemingly instinctively, respond to every tragedy, every high-profile incident, every surge in public fear, with a demand for more. More legislation, more surveillance, more restrictions, more penalties. It's a natural human response, isn't it? When we feel vulnerable, we crave protection. When we feel chaos, we yearn for order. And the most tangible representation of order, the most immediate governmental response, often comes in the form of new statutes, tougher sentencing guidelines, expanded police powers. But does this ever-increasing legislative labyrinth genuinely translate into a safer world for you, for me, for our children? Or does it, perhaps, create an intricate web of control, an illusion of safety that comes at a cost we rarely stop to fully calculate? We're told, implicitly and explicitly, that each new law is a brick in the wall of our collective security. But what if that wall, rather than protecting us, is simply boxing us in? What if, in our relentless pursuit of absolute safety, we're sacrificing something even more precious, something intrinsically human, our fundamental freedoms, our civil liberties? This isn't about being anti-law enforcement or anti-government, it's about critical analysis, about pulling back the curtain on assumptions we've held sacred for far too long. It's about asking if the comfort of a perceived safety is worth the erosion of actual freedom. Consider this startling juxtaposition, a statistic that, once you internalize it, might just shift your entire perspective. Across many modern nations, particularly in developed Western societies, we've witnessed a colossal, almost unfathomable increase in government spending dedicated to corrections. We're talking about billions upon billions of dollars poured into prisons, jails, probation systems, parole services, surveillance technologies, and a vast bureaucratic machinery designed to manage those who have offended or are perceived to be a threat. The budget lines for these systems have swelled to unprecedented levels, often outpacing investments in education, healthcare, or infrastructure. They reflect an enormous societal commitment, a collective declaration that we are serious about addressing crime. Yet, when we look at the corresponding crime rates over the same periods, let's say, the last 3 or 4 decades, what do we find? Do we see a dramatic, consistent, and unequivocal decline in crime that mirrors this astronomical rise in spending? Or do we, in many cases, observe crime rates that fluctuate, sometimes rising, sometimes falling, sometimes stubbornly remaining stagnant, often influenced by a myriad of complex socio-economic factors far beyond the scope of mere punitive measures? It's a disconnect that should give us pause. If throwing more money, more laws, more bodies into the correctional system were the magi. Introduction: the narrator's lens, decoding the bureaucracy. Welcome, truly, to a journey that I believe will resonate deep within your understanding of society, justice, and the profound human condition. We are about to embark upon an exploration unlike any other you might expect when encountering a title like Governmental Responses to Crime. Forget, for a moment, the preconceived notions of dusty textbooks, of dense, impenetrable legal speak, or of abstract theories that feel miles removed from the lived experiences of individuals. Set those aside, because what we are about to unveil together is not merely a collection of facts or an academic treatise. No, this is much, much more. Consider this book, and indeed, this very conversation we're beginning, not as a daunting academic endeavor, but as an intricately detailed, yet remarkably accessible, map. A map of the sprawling, often bewildering, landscape of our justice system. Think of it as your essential guide to navigating the winding roads, the treacherous detours, and even the hidden pathways that define how societies, through their governments, choose to respond when the delicate fabric of order is torn by crime. This map, I promise you, will illuminate not just the geographical points, but the very pulse and heartbeat of the terrain itself. It will reveal the peaks of legislative aspiration and the deep valleys of human failing, the shining cities of justice and the shadowed corners where hope sometimes struggles to survive. And who am I in this grand exploration? I am your guide, yes, but more specifically, I consider myself an investigative observer. Someone who doesn't merely present data, but who seeks the truth, the raw, unvarnished truth, that often lies just beneath the polished surface of legal pronouncements and bureaucratic procedures. My role, my fervent hope, is to stand with you, shoulder to shoulder, and together we will peer behind the imposing facades of courthouses, beyond the meticulously crafted language of statutes, and past the often impersonal statistics that can so easily desensitize us to the profound human drama unfolding within this system. I am here to act as your interpreter, your translator, to bridge the intimidating chasm between complex legal and sociological jargon and the vivid, compelling human stories that are invariably intertwined with every single governmental response to crime. When we talk about penal codes or due process or rehabilitation programs, these are not just abstract concepts. They are the scaffolding, the very framework, around which lives are built, broken, and sometimes, incredibly, rebuilt. Each piece of legislation, every judicial decision, every policy enacted within a correctional facility carries with it the weight of individual destinies, the echoes of countless narratives. My mission, our shared mission, is to decode these complex terms, to strip away the intimidating layers of professional language, and to lay bare the emotional core, the lived realities, that these words represent. We will delve into the lives affected, the victims grappling with unimaginable loss, the accused facing the might of the state, the families torn asunder, the dedicated professionals striving to uphold justice, and even the communities struggling to heal and move forward. Our journey together will be expansive, reaching far beyond the confines of a single courtroom. We will begin our exploration in the very chambers where the fundamental rules are forged, tracing the path from the legislature, where ideas and ideologies coalesce, sometimes clash violently, to become the laws that govern our behavior. We will examine the forces that shape these laws, the political pressures, the public outcry, the academic research, and the moral compasses, or sometimes the lack thereof, that guide their creation. How does a societal concern transform into a criminal offense? What are the underlying philosophies that drive the definitions of crime and punishment in different eras and different cultures? These are the foundational questions we will confront. From there, we will follow the intrica. Chapter 1: The Philosophy of Punishment. Welcome, esteemed listeners, to Governmental Responses to Crime. As we embark on this crucial exploration, our journey begins not with the intricacies of law or the grim realities of crime scenes, but with a deeper, more fundamental question: why? Why do governments, societies, and communities respond to crime in the ways they do? What are the underlying beliefs, the deeply held values, and the historical currents that shape our approach to justice and punishment? This first chapter, The Philosophy of Punishment, is our foundation. It's where we lay bare the theoretical frameworks that guide every policy decision, every judicial sentence, every prison reform, and every community initiative. We're not just talking about what happens, but why it happens. We'll delve into 4 cornerstone philosophies that have, for centuries, shaped humanity's response to wrongdoing: deterrence, retribution, incapacitation, and rehabilitation. Each offers a distinct lens through which to view justice, and each carries its own set of hopes, challenges, and profound implications for both the offender and society. Let us begin with a philosophy that, perhaps more than any other, underpins the visible actions of our justice system: deterrence. At its heart, Deterrence is about preventing future crime through the strategic use of punishment. It operates on a very simple, yet incredibly powerful, psychological principle. If the pain of punishment outweighs the pleasure or gain from the crime, individuals will choose not to offend. It's a calculated gamble, a societal warning. There are two primary forms of deterrence. First, we have general deterrence. This is the message sent to the public at large. When an offender is publicly prosecuted, sentenced, or incarcerated, the intention is that everyone observing this process, or even just hearing about it, will think twice before committing a similar act. It's a collective lesson, a stark reminder of the consequences. The visible presence of law enforcement, the severity of sentences, and the consistency of punishment are all tools aimed at fostering this widespread fear of legal repercussions. It's designed to make potential offenders stop, reflect, and ultimately, choose compliance over criminality. Then there's specific deterrence. This is a more personal message, directed squarely at the individual who has already committed a crime. The punishment they receive, whether it's a prison sentence, a hefty fine, or community service, is intended to be so unpleasant, so impactful, that they will be disinclined to reoffend once they are released or once their sentence is complete. It's a direct, visceral lesson designed to alter future behavior by connecting their past transgression with immediate, undeniable suffering. The hope here is that the memory of their punishment will forever serve as a deterrent, guiding them away from a repeat offense. Now, to truly understand deterrence, we must introduce a concept fundamental to its very fabric: rational choice theory. This theory posits that individuals are rational actors who weigh the potential costs and benefits before making a decision. In the context of crime, a rational offender, according to this theory, assesses the likelihood of being caught, the severity of the punishment if caught, and the potential rewards of the crime. If the perceived risks cost outweigh the perceived rewards benefit, the rational individual will choose not to commit the crime. This theory has had an immense impact on policy. If criminals are rational, then the logical response from the government is to increase the costs of crime. This means harsher penalties, longer prison sentences, increased police presence, and more sophisticated surveillance technologies to boost the perceived certainty of apprehension. Laws mandating minimum sentences, 3 strikes policies, and even capital punishment are all, in various degrees, informed by the rational choice perspective, aiming to tip the scales heavily against criminal activity. The thinking is straightforward. Make the Chapter 2, The Legislative Reaction, Panic versus Policy. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're joining us. Welcome back to Governmental Responses to Crime. In our previous chapter, we laid the groundwork, exploring the philosophical underpinnings and the historical evolution of how societies have chosen to address criminal behavior. Today, however, we dive into a far more immediate and often profoundly troubling aspect of this journey. Chapter 2, The Legislative Reaction, Panic versus Policy. This chapter isn't just about understanding laws, it's about dissecting how those laws come into being, examining the often tumultuous, frequently emotional, and sometimes deeply flawed process that transforms public fear into statutory reality. It's a critical lens through which we must view the effectiveness and fairness of our justice systems. The core of our discussion today revolves around a stark, often uncomfortable truth. Many of the laws that govern our criminal justice system are not born from careful, evidence-based deliberation. Instead, they frequently emerge as knee-jerk reactions, direct responses to high-profile crimes that capture headlines and ignite public outrage. Think about it. A horrific incident occurs, the media amplifies it, public fear escalates, and suddenly, there's an irresistible political pressure to do something. This doing something often manifests as new legislation, swiftly passed, designed to show decisiveness, to demonstrate that elected officials are tough on crime. But is being tough always being smart? Does a swift, emotionally charged reaction truly lead to effective, equitable policy? History, unfortunately, often answers with a resounding no. One of the most potent forces driving this reactive lawmaking is what sociologists call a moral panic. A moral panic is essentially an intense public fear or anxiety, often fueled by media sensationalism, about a particular social group or phenomenon perceived as a threat to societal values and norms. Think back to the stranger danger panics of the 1980s, the super predator myth of the 1990s, or even earlier, the various drug scares that have swept through nations. These aren't just moments of concern, they are periods where rationality is often sidelined in favor of alarm. During a moral panic, a particular crime or type of offender becomes demonized, transformed into an existential threat. The media plays a crucial, often unwitting, role in this process. Sensational headlines, graphic details, and emotionally charged narratives can create a distorted perception of reality, making rare events seem commonplace and isolated incidents appear to be part of a terrifying trend. This amplification of fear then trickles up to our lawmakers. Politicians, ever attuned to the public pulse and the next election cycle, feel immense pressure to respond. To be perceived as soft on crime during such a period is political suicide. So, they rush to the legislative drawing board, often prioritizing symbolic action over substantive, long-term solutions. Consider the atmosphere surrounding these legislative debates. It's not a quiet room filled with academics calmly reviewing data. It's a highly charged environment, often with victims' families present, their grief palpable, their calls for justice echoing in the halls. Who could argue against such pain? Who could suggest a more measured approach when emotions are running so high? This emotional crucible often leads to laws that are overly broad, excessively punitive, and critically, often fail to address the root causes of crime or even effectively deter it. They become instruments of public catharsis more than tools of justice reform. Perhaps one of the most enduring and controversial examples of legislative rigidity born from moral panic is the Three Strikes Law. You might remember the wave of these laws that swept across the United States in the 1990s, inspired by high-profile, tragic cases that shocked the nation. The premise was simple, alluringly so: commit 3 felonies, and you're out, typically facing a life sentence, regardless of. Chapter 3: Policing, the Gatekeepers of the System. Chapter 3: Policing, the Gatekeepers of the System. Script begins: Good morning, everyone. Or perhaps, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where and when you're joining us. As we continue our deep dive into the labyrinthine world of governmental responses to crime, we arrive at a pivotal, often contentious, and undeniably foundational component: policing. For many, the police represent the very first, and sometimes the only, interaction with the justice system. They are, in essence, the gatekeepers, the front line where theoretical law meets the gritty, unpredictable reality of human behavior. This chapter, Policing, the Gatekeepers of the System, isn't just a historical recounting, it's an exploration of a dynamic, evolving, and often fraught relationship between authority and citizenry. we'll be dissecting the strategies that have shaped law enforcement, from the community-centric approaches that sought to embed officers within the fabric of neighborhoods, to the more militarized responses that have emerged in recent decades. And crucially, we'll examine the profound, sometimes shattering, impact these shifts have had on public trust. Because at the heart of effective policing lies not just force, but faith. Imagine, if you will, the early days of policing. Picture a beat cop, walking a familiar route, knowing the shop owners by name, understanding the subtle rhythms of the streets, perhaps even stopping a budding dispute before it escalates into something more serious. This image, romanticized as it may be, captures the essence of what was once a prevailing philosophy: prevention. Early policing strategies, particularly in their idealized forms, emphasized maintaining public order, resolving local conflicts, and fostering a visible, reassuring presence. The goal wasn't just to catch criminals after a crime, but to deter crime before it happened, to weave law enforcement into the very tapestry of daily life. Officers were peacekeepers, community members in uniform, their value measured not just by arrest rates, but by the quiet stability they helped cultivate. But then, something shifted. The landscape of crime evolved, urban centers grew more complex, and societal anxieties mounted. The mid to late 20th century saw a pronounced pivot, driven by a confluence of factors: rising crime rates in many urban areas, political pressure to be tough on crime, and the advent of a professionalization movement within police departments that prioritized efficiency, rapid response times, and measurable outcomes. The focus began to migrate from prevention to apprehension. The mantra changed from keeping the peace to catching the bad guys. This wasn't just a semantic shift, it was a fundamental reorientation of purpose and practice. Police departments invested more in specialized units, in faster cars, in technologies designed for pursuit and capture. Success became increasingly defined by statistics, arrest numbers, clearance rates, drug seizures. The personal, localized knowledge of the beat cop began to yield to a more distant, reactive model. Officers became less embedded, more mobile, often responding to calls for service rather than proactively engaging in preventative measures. The consequences of this shift were multifaceted. While it arguably led to a more systematic approach to serious crime, it often came at the cost of community connection. the us versus them mentality, which had always simmered beneath the surface in some areas, began to gain traction, replacing familiarity with a growing sense of detachment, and for some, outright adversarial tension. Perhaps no theoretical framework epitomizes this shift and its subsequent controversies more profoundly than the broken windows theory. First articulated by James Q. Wilson and George L. Kelling in 1982, the theory posits a seemingly intuitive idea: visible signs of crime, civil disorder, and neglect, like a single broken window left unrepaired, create an urban environment that encourages further and more serious crime. The premise is that if minor INF. Chapter 4, The Courts, Assembly Line Justice. Welcome, dear listeners, to Chapter 4 of Governmental Responses to Crime. Today, we delve into a space that, for many, remains shrouded in mystery, a place where justice is theoretically dispensed, but often, the gears grind in ways few outsiders truly understand. We are entering the realm of the courts, assembly line justice. Forget the dramatic courtroom scenes you've witnessed in movies or on television, where eloquent lawyers spar, and juries painstakingly weigh every piece of evidence. The reality, for the vast majority of cases in our criminal justice system, is starkly different. Our journey through the courts will demystify this process, pulling back the curtain to reveal how efficiently, and often ruthlessly, cases are handled. We will confront the uncomfortable truth that trials, the cornerstone of our adversarial system, have largely been replaced by a more expedient, yet profoundly impactful, mechanism, the plea bargain. This transformation has reshaped justice, prioritizing speed and volume over the meticulous pursuit of truth that we often idealize. Over the next few minutes, we will unpack the mechanics of this assembly line. We will meet the key players in what's known as the courtroom work group and understand how their dynamic, often cooperative rather than adversarial, speeds up the processing of cases. We will then scrutinize the immense pressure placed upon defendants, often compelling them to accept plea deals, even when their innocence might be questionable, simply to avoid the potentially devastating consequences of a trial and a harsher sentence. We'll shine a bright light on the prosecutor, the most powerful actor in this complex drama, whose discretion often dictates the fate of countless individuals. And finally, we will confront the stark, often heartbreaking, disparities in legal representation, a chasm that separates the wealthy from the poor, profoundly influencing the outcomes within this assembly line of justice. Prepare to have your perceptions challenged, as we explore a system designed for efficiency, sometimes at the expense of fundamental fairness. Let us begin by understanding the concept of the courtroom work group. When you envision a courtroom, you likely picture a judge, a prosecutor, and a defense attorney, each standing in an adversarial relationship, fiercely advocating for their respective positions. While this adversarial ideal holds true in theory, in the day-to-day grind of a busy courthouse, a different dynamic often takes hold. The judge, the prosecutor, and even the defense attorney, especially public defenders or appointed counsel, often form what sociologists call a work group. This isn't a formal club, but rather an informal network of individuals who interact regularly, often developing a shared understanding, a common set of goals, and a mutual interest in efficiency. Think about it. These individuals see each other day in and day out. They share coffee, navigate the same bureaucratic hurdles, and are all under immense pressure to move cases through the system. For the judge, it means managing a crowded docket and avoiding backlogs. For the prosecutor, it means securing convictions and maintaining a high clearance rate. For the defense attorney, particularly one with a crushing caseload, it means resolving cases quickly to attend to the next client waiting in the wings. This unspoken, sometimes explicit, understanding fosters a climate where negotiation and compromise become the default, rather than the exception. They develop a sense of the going rate for certain offenses, an unwritten tariff for various crimes that informs plea discussions. A case might move from arrest to disposition in a matter of weeks, sometimes even days, a testament to this collaborative efficiency. This shared interest in expediting justice, while seemingly practical, can inadvertently eclipse the more profound objective of achieving individualized justice, where each case receives the full, unhurried scrutiny it deserves. The rhythm of the courtroom becomes less about meticulous. Chapter 5, Sentencing, the Mathematics of Freedom. Welcome to Chapter 5 of Governmental Responses to Crime, a chapter that delves into the very heart of our justice system, where numbers meet human lives, and abstract concepts translate into years, or even decades, behind bars. We call this chapter, fittingly, Sentencing, the Mathematics of Freedom. It's a title that hints at the chilling precision with which destinies are sometimes calculated, a stark reminder that even in the pursuit of justice, the human element can be overshadowed by algorithms and mandates. Today, we peel back the layers of the sentencing process, a process that is often opaque to the public but profoundly impacts countless individuals and their families. We'll investigate how sentences are determined, from the intricate webs of guidelines to the unyielding grip of mandatory minimums, and explore the profound loss of judicial discretion that has reshaped our legal landscape. Prepare to confront the often uncomfortable truth of how freedom is measured, weighed, and ultimately prescribed by a system striving for both fairness and punishment. For centuries, judicial discretion was the cornerstone of sentencing. Judges, having presided over trials, witnessed the evidence, and often observed the defendant directly, held significant power to craft sentences they believed fit the crime and the individual. This, while offering flexibility, also led to concerns about inconsistency and potential bias. Two identical crimes, committed by individuals with similar backgrounds, could result in vastly different outcomes depending on the judge. The pendulum swung, and in an effort to bring order, transparency, and perceived fairness to the process, sentencing guidelines and grids emerged. Imagine, if you will, a vast, multi-dimensional chart. On one axis, you have the severity of the offense, ranging from minor infractions to the most heinous crimes imaginable. On the other axis, you track the offender's criminal history, from a clean record to a long string of prior convictions. Where these 2 points intersect, you find a range, typically expressed in months or years, that represents the presumptive sentence for that particular combination of crime and criminal background. These are the sentencing guidelines. They are not mere suggestions. In many jurisdictions, they are the bedrock upon which judicial decisions are built, transforming sentencing from an art into something resembling a science, or perhaps, more accurately, a complex calculation. These guidelines aim to achieve several critical goals. First, consistency, ensuring that similar cases result in similar sentences, regardless of the judge. Second, proportionality, matching the severity of the punishment to the severity of the crime. And third, transparency, making the rationale behind sentences more understandable to the public. They standardize, categorize, and quantify. A robbery might be assigned a level 18 offense severity, and a defendant with a minor prior conviction might fall into criminal history category 2. The intersection of Level 18 and Category 2 then points to a sentencing range, say, 30 to 37 months. While judges retain some limited ability to depart from these guidelines, known as departures or variances, these are often scrutinized and require compelling justifications. The ideal, of course, is a system that is predictable, equitable, and just. But the reality, as we will soon see, is far more complex, often creating unforeseen rigidities and outcomes that feel profoundly unjust. The human story, with all its nuances and complexities, can sometimes struggle to fit neatly into the predefined boxes of a sentencing grid. If sentencing guidelines represent a structured attempt at fairness, then mandatory minimums are the system's blunt instrument, a legislative sledgehammer that often shatters the very discretion guidelines sought to rein in responsibly. Mandatory minimums are laws that require judges to hand down a sentence that is no shorter than a specific term, regardless of the individual circumstances of the. Chapter 6: The Prison Industrial Complex. Here is the detailed script for Chapter 6. The Prison Industrial Complex. Start script. Hello, and welcome to Chapter 6 of Governmental Responses to Crime. Today, we delve into a topic that is both vast and deeply unsettling: the prison industrial complex. This chapter isn't just an overview, it's a critical examination, a necessary dissection of a system that has grown exponentially, often out of public sight, profoundly shaping our societies and defining our approach to justice. We will challenge the very foundations upon which this complex has been built, scrutinizing its expansion and, most pointedly, the controversial rise of privatized incarceration. When we speak of the prison industrial complex, we are referring to the overlapping interests of government and industry that use surveillance, policing, and imprisonment as solutions to economic, social, and political problems. It's a system that thrives on the perception of crime and the fear it generates, perpetuating a cycle that often does more harm than good. Our journey today will reveal the inner workings of this complex, exposing the mechanisms that drive its growth and the profound human cost it exacts. Let's begin by analyzing the economics of private prisons, a facet of the complex that often goes unnoticed by the general public but has monumental implications for justice. Imagine a world where the punishment of individuals is not solely a public service, but a profitable business venture. That is precisely what private prisons represent. These facilities are built, managed, and operated by for-profit corporations, companies whose primary allegiance is to their shareholders, not to the ideals of justice or rehabilitation. This profit motive, ladies and gentlemen, fundamentally distorts the very purpose of incarceration. Consider this: for a private prison to be profitable, it needs prisoners. It needs beds filled. It needs a steady stream of individuals to incarcerate. This economic reality creates an insidious incentive. Instead of aiming for lower crime rates or successful rehabilitation that reduces the need for prisons, these corporations inadvertently benefit from higher incarceration rates, longer sentences, and a robust criminal justice system that continually funnels individuals into their facilities. It's a stark, chilling paradox. Their success is predicated on human failure, on the failure of society to prevent crime, and on the failure of individuals to stay out of trouble. Many private prison contracts include what are known as occupancy guarantees or beds or bills clauses. These clauses are truly astonishing. They often stipulate that if the state or federal government doesn't maintain a certain occupancy rate, say 80% or 90% within the private facility, the government must pay the company for the empty beds anyway. Think about the implications of that for a moment. It's a perverse incentive for governments to ensure prisons remain full, to resist policies that might lead to fewer arrests, shorter sentences, or alternative sentencing options. It means that efforts to reform criminal justice, to reduce mass incarceration, can literally cost taxpayers more money if those reforms lead to empty beds in privately run prisons. This system essentially obliges the state to be a consistent supplier of human beings to fill corporate quotas. These corporations, driven by the need for occupancy and profit, often engage in extensive lobbying efforts. They pour money into political campaigns, pushing for stricter sentencing laws, mandatory minimums, and tough-on-crime legislation. They advocate for policies that expand the net of incarceration, not because they make communities safer, but because they expand their customer base. When profit becomes intertwined with punishment, the ethical lines blur, and the pursuit of justice is irrevocably compromised. We must ask ourselves, can a system truly be just when its operations are driven by financial gain? Can rehabilitation ever be the primary goal when filling beds is the priority? The answer, IB. Chapter 7, Probation and Parole, The Invisible Net. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for Chapter 7 of Governmental Responses to Crime. Today, we delve into a critical, often misunderstood, and profoundly impactful facet of our justice system: probation and parole. We're calling this chapter The Invisible Net, and for good reason. For many, freedom isn't a clean break from the past, it's stepping into a complex, almost ethereal web of rules, restrictions, and expectations that can feel just as confining as the prison walls they've left behind. Imagine the feeling. After years, months, perhaps even weeks, behind bars, the heavy gates finally open. The sunlight feels different, the air smells new, the sounds of the city are overwhelming yet exhilarating. You're free, or so it seems. But for the vast majority, that freedom is conditional, temporary, and constantly under scrutiny. This is the world of community supervision, probation for those sentenced to it instead of incarceration, and parole for those released early from prison. While the intent is noble, to aid reintegration, to support a law-abiding life, to reduce recidivism, the reality often paints a starkly different picture. We're going to examine how this invisible net frequently serves as a tripwire back to prison, rather than a genuine path to successful reintegration. It's a system designed, ostensibly, to support, yet often, it feels more like it's designed to catch you in a stumble. Let's begin by detailing the incredibly strict, often bewildering, conditions placed upon individuals under community supervision. These aren't just suggestions, they are mandates, and the list can be exhaustive, almost overwhelming. Think about it, every aspect of a person's life, from their physical location to their social interactions, their employment, and even their financial decisions, can be dictated by a set of rules. You might have a curfew, for instance. A simple time by which you must be home, every single night. Sounds straightforward, right? But what if your job requires you to work late? What if an emergency happens? What if your transportation breaks down? Each deviation, however minor or unintentional, is a potential violation. Travel restrictions are common too. Often, you cannot leave your county, or even your city, without explicit, written permission from your probation or parole officer. Want to visit a sick relative 2 counties over? You need permission. Want to go to a job interview across the state line? Permission. This isn't just an inconvenience, it can severely limit opportunities for employment, for family connection, and for building a stable, supportive life outside the immediate vicinity of their conviction. Then there are the mandatory meetings. Regular check-ins with your officer, often weekly, or bi-weekly. These aren't casual chats, they are formal reports, opportunities for your officer to review your compliance. And alongside these meetings, there are often mandatory drug tests. Random, unannounced, and frequent. While these are certainly crucial for individuals with substance abuse histories, a single failed test, even for something like alcohol, can trigger severe repercussions, regardless of the context or underlying struggles. Perhaps one of the most isolating conditions is the prohibition against associating with certain individuals. This often includes anyone with a criminal record, even if they are family members or longtime friends who are genuinely trying to turn their lives around. Imagine being told you cannot see your own brother, your cousin, or a friend who once shared your struggles, even if they are your strongest support system, simply because they, too, have a past. This condition, while intended to prevent negative influences, can often sever vital social ties and push individuals into deeper isolation. And what about places? Certain locations, like bars, or areas known for illicit activities, are often off limits, even if one needs to pass through them for legitimate reasons, or if a new job happens to be nearby. The constant vigilance required to avoid this. Chapter 8: The War on Drugs, a Policy Case Study. Welcome to Chapter 8 of Governmental Responses to Crime. Today, we embark on a critical examination, a deep dive into one of the most impactful, and indeed, one of the most tragically consequential governmental policies of the last century, the war on drugs. This isn't just a historical recounting, it's a profound case study in how well-intentioned, or at least publicly framed, responses to a perceived societal threat can spiral into a complex web of unintended consequences, forever reshaping the fabric of a nation. Our focus will be squarely on using the war on drugs as a primary example of a governmental response that, despite its stated goals, generated massive, often devastating, social consequences that continue to reverberate through our communities even today. When we talk about governmental responses to crime, we often think of policing, courts, prisons, and rehabilitation. But what happens when the very definition of a crime is engineered, when entire populations are targeted, and when the solution becomes, for many, worse than the original problem. That's the somber reality we're confronting with the war on drugs. We'll trace the history of drug prohibition, its escalating intensity, dissect the deeply entrenched racial disparities that became its hallmark, discuss the crucial shift in perspective from viewing addiction as a criminal failing to a public health crisis, and finally, evaluate the age-old tug-of-war between interdiction efforts and demand reduction strategies. So, let's begin our journey into this pivotal, often painful, chapter of American policy. Our story, or rather, this narrative of prohibition, didn't begin with a grand declaration in the 1970s. Its roots run much deeper, entwined with xenophobia, economic anxieties, and racial prejudice that predated the term war on drugs by decades. Imagine, if you will, the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Opium, a drug widely used for medicinal purposes, became associated with Chinese immigrants, who were seen as an economic threat, particularly in the American West. Restrictive laws targeting opium smoking were among the earliest forms of drug prohibition, thinly veiled attacks on a marginalized group. Then came cocaine, its recreational use gaining traction. But it wasn't just about the drug itself, it was about who was perceived to be using it. Sensationalized and racially charged reports claimed cocaine fueled violence among African Americans, leading to calls for stricter controls. Similarly, marijuana, initially brought by Mexican immigrants, was quickly demonized. Propaganda campaigns, often absurd and terrifying, linked its use to crime, madness, and lethargy, directly targeting and stigmatizing this new immigrant population. These early prohibitions weren't just about public safety, they were tools of social control, weapons used to marginalize and oppress specific ethnic and racial groups. The federal government began to step in more forcefully with the Harrison Narcotics Act of 1914, requiring prescriptions for narcotics and cocaine. Then, in 1937, propelled by the zealous Harry Anslinger and his grotesque reefer madness propaganda, came the Marijuana Tax Act, effectively making marijuana illegal. Each step, each legislative act, chipped away at personal liberty under the guise of protecting society, but always with an undercurrent of racial bias shaping its enforcement. The true escalation, however, came in the late 1960s and early 1970s. America was in turmoil, the civil rights movement was gaining strength, the Vietnam War was raging, and counterculture movements challenged established norms. It was against this backdrop that President Richard Nixon officially declared the war on drugs in 1971. His administration framed it as a necessary defense of American values, a fight against a growing menace. Yet, the real motivations, as we later learned from Nixon's own aides, were far more cynical. John Ehrlichman, a key advisor, later admitted that the Nixon campaign had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. He stated, and I. Chapter 9, Juvenile Justice, Kids in Cages. Here is the script for Chapter 9, Juvenile Justice, Kids in Cages. Start. Welcome to Chapter 9 of Governmental Responses to Crime, a chapter that forces us to look into the mirror and confront a profoundly uncomfortable truth about how society treats its most vulnerable, yet sometimes most challenging, members, children who commit crimes. We call this chapter, Juvenile Justice, Kids in Cages, because for too many young lives, this stark image is their grim reality. Today, we delve into the intricate and often contradictory world of juvenile justice, a system designed to treat minors differently from adults, yet one that has seen its protective philosophy steadily erode over decades. We're going to explore the fundamental differences in how the state responds to children versus adults, and in doing so, we'll expose the cracks in a system that was once built on the principle of acting in a child's best interest. Let's begin by understanding the foundational concept that underpins the very idea of a separate justice system for children: parens patriae. This Latin phrase translates roughly to parent of the country or parent of the nation. It's a legal doctrine asserting that the state has the inherent power to protect those who cannot protect themselves, particularly children. Imagine a time, centuries ago, when children, especially poor or orphaned children, were often treated no differently from adults in the eyes of the law. They could be jailed, punished, even executed for offenses that today we would consider juvenile delinquencies. The advent of parens patriae represented a profound shift in thinking. It suggested that when a child was found to be neglected, abused, or committing acts that violated the law, the state, through its courts, should step in as a benevolent parent. The goal wasn't primarily to punish, but to rehabilitate, guide, and protect the child, ensuring their future well-being and development. This philosophy truly took root in the late 19th and early 20th centuries in the United States, leading to the establishment of the first dedicated juvenile courts. These courts were revolutionary. They operated differently from adult courts. Proceedings were often less formal, confidential, and focused on the individual child's needs rather than the specifics of the crime. Judges were meant to act almost like social workers, prescribing treatments, education, and guidance, rather than simply issuing sentences. The idea was to prevent a child from being branded a criminal for life, to offer a chance at redemption and a path back to a productive role in society. They understood, implicitly, that children were still developing, still capable of change, and fundamentally different from adults. They sought to save, not simply to sentence. This protective philosophy, though imperfectly applied even in its heyday, was a beacon of hope. It recognized that a young person's impulsive actions, poor judgment, or susceptibility to peer pressure shouldn't necessarily condemn them to the same fate as a hardened adult offender. It was about recognizing the unique developmental stage of adolescence and tailoring the state's response accordingly. However, the late 20th century brought a dramatic and disheartening shift. Beginning in the 1980s and intensifying through the 1990s, a tough-on-crime mentality swept across the nation. Fueled by rising crime rates, media sensationalism, and a manufactured panic over the so-called super predator, a terrifying, cold-blooded juvenile offender archetype that social scientists later debunked, public perception hardened. The image of the vulnerable child needing guidance began to recede, replaced by a narrative of dangerous youth who needed to be controlled and punished, just like adults. This erosion of the protective philosophy was not accidental, it was codified into law. States across the country began to pass legislation making it easier to try juveniles as adults, particularly for serious crimes. These mechanisms are often referred to as waivers, transfers, or SARE. Chapter 10: Victimology and Restorative Justice. Welcome, everyone, to Chapter 10 of Governmental Responses to Crime. Today, we embark on a profoundly important and often overlooked journey, a journey into the heart of victimology and the transformative power of restorative justice. For too long, our criminal justice systems, across the globe, have been primarily focused on two entities, the state and the offender. The crime is seen as a violation of law, and justice, a matter of assigning blame and meting out punishment. But what about the person whose life was irrevocably altered by that crime? What about the victim? This chapter challenges that traditional paradigm. We will explore how the prevailing system, despite its intentions, frequently marginalizes the very individuals it purports to protect. We'll then turn our attention to alternative models, specifically, the principles and practices of restorative justice, which boldly shift the focus from merely punishing a wrongdoer to actively healing the harm, repairing relationships, and empowering all parties involved. This isn't just an academic exercise, it's a call to reevaluate what justice truly means, and for whom it should primarily serve. So, let's delve into the intricate roles victims play, or rather, don't play, in our current systems, and envision a path towards a more compassionate and holistic form of justice. Let's begin by confronting a difficult truth. In many traditional criminal justice systems, the victim, heartbreakingly, becomes an afterthought. Think about it. When a crime occurs, the state steps in, representing the people. The legal battle is framed as the state versus the defendant. The victim's role, while crucial for evidence, often shrinks to that of a witness, a source of information to secure a conviction. They are asked to recount their trauma, sometimes repeatedly, in clinical, detached settings, only to then retreat to the sidelines once their testimony is complete. Their emotional pain, their financial losses, their sense of violated security, these profound impacts often remain largely unaddressed by the formal legal process itself. The focus is singularly on the offender's guilt or innocence, and if guilty, on the appropriate sentence. This marginalization isn't necessarily intentional malice, it's a systemic flaw rooted in the historical evolution of our justice models. When crimes moved from private disputes to public offenses against the state, the victim's agency was largely absorbed. Their voice, their need for answers, their desire for restitution or even an apology, often takes a back seat to the state's prerogative to enforce laws and maintain social order through punishment. Victims can feel alienated, voiceless, and even re-victimized by the very system designed to protect them. The slow pace of justice, the intimidating courtrooms, the often impersonal procedures, the sometimes grueling cross-examinations that can feel more like an attack than a search for truth, all these elements can exacerbate their trauma, rather than alleviate it. They are left to grapple with the aftermath, often alone, while the system moves on to the next case. The message, however unintended, is that their suffering is secondary to the legal process. This is where the profound need for a different approach becomes glaringly apparent. We need a system that recognizes the human cost of crime and actively works to mend what has been broken, not just punish who did the breaking. This profound realization brings us to the core of this chapter: restorative justice. Imagine a model where justice isn't just about punishment, but about repairing harm. This is the foundational principle of restorative justice, or RJ. It represents a significant paradigm shift from the traditional retributive model that dominates Western legal systems, where retributive justice asks, what law was broken? Who did it? What punishment do they deserve? Restorative justice asks fundamentally different questions: who has been harmed? What are their needs? Whose obligations are these? Who has a stake in this SI? Chapter 11: The Economics of Crime Control. Welcome to Chapter 11 of Governmental Responses to Crime. Today, we are taking a deep dive into the economics of crime control, a topic that truly challenges us to look beyond the headlines and into the spreadsheets, to examine whether our considerable investment in the justice system is actually delivering the returns we, as taxpayers, expect and deserve. It's a profound question, one that forces us to confront not just the moral implications of our policies, but also the very practical, financial realities that underpin them. Are we spending wisely? Are we getting a return on our investment in safety, in rehabilitation, in justice itself? Let's start with a stark comparison, one that often elicits a collective gasp when the numbers are laid bare: the cost of incarceration versus the cost of education. Picture this for a moment: across many states in the United States, and in similar developed nations around the world, the annual expenditure to house a single inmate in prison often dwarfs the amount spent to educate a student in public schools or even at a public university. We're talking about figures that can climb upwards of $30, $40, $50,000, sometimes even $60,000 or more per inmate, per year. Now, consider what that kind of investment could do in an educational setting. Imagine if that $50,000 was invested in a student. Think of the resources, the teachers, the technology, the enrichment programs, the support services that could be provided. This isn't just a matter of pointing out a discrepancy, it's about evaluating priorities and effectiveness. What does this vast expenditure on incarceration truly achieve? While it certainly ensures incapacitation, keeping individuals deemed dangerous off the streets, the question remains, does it fundamentally address the root causes of crime? Does it prepare individuals for a successful, crime-free return to society? The data, unfortunately, often suggests a different story, with high rates of recidivism indicating that our current investment strategy, while expensive, isn't always effective in breaking the cycle of crime. This isn't just a financial challenge, it's a moral one, asking us to reflect on whether our current approach truly aligns with our societal values of opportunity and rehabilitation. We spend so much on locking people up, and then we are often shocked when they emerge from that system with even fewer prospects than when they went in, frequently returning to environments ripe for reoffending. It's a vicious cycle, fueled by immense public funds, yet often yielding disheartening results. This challenging reality has led to a crucial concept gaining traction in recent years: justice reinvestment. This isn't just a fancy term, it's a strategic framework, a bold proposition that encourages states and nations to redirect funds from incarceration to community-based programs that actually prevent crime, treat addiction, address mental health issues, and provide opportunities for successful reintegration. The core idea is brilliantly simple yet profoundly impactful. If we can reduce the need for incarceration by investing in communities and individuals before they enter the system, or by supporting them effectively after their release, we can save significant amounts of money. And then, we can take a portion of those savings and reinvest them back into those very programs that are proving successful. It's a virtuous cycle. Imagine funds currently used to build and maintain prisons being shifted to substance abuse treatment centers, to job training initiatives, to early childhood education programs in high-risk neighborhoods, to mental health services accessible to everyone, or to restorative justice initiatives. The economic logic is compelling. It's often far less expensive to prevent a crime or to rehabilitate an individual in the community than it is to incarcerate them for years. Moreover, these community-based programs don't just save money, they build stronger, healthier communities, foster social cohesion. Chapter 12: Future Trends, Surveillance and AI. Friends, colleagues, fellow citizens peering into the looking glass of tomorrow, welcome. We stand at a precipice, a fascinating and terrifying juncture where the very fabric of our societies, the bedrock of our justice systems, and the deeply personal concept of our individual freedoms are being reshaped by forces unseen, by algorithms churning in the digital ether. This is Chapter 12, Future Trends, Surveillance and AI, and our journey today is not merely an academic exercise, but a pressing exploration into how technology is fundamentally altering governmental responses to crime, from the seductive promise of predictive policing to the pervasive reach of electronic monitoring. Prepare yourselves, for the future isn't just coming, it's already here, whispering its complex truths into the very heart of our communities. Let's begin with a concept that sounds straight out of a science fiction novel, yet is very much a present-day reality: predictive policing. Imagine a world where crime isn't just reacted to, but actively anticipated. Where law enforcement isn't always playing catch-up, but is strategically positioned, almost magically, to prevent offenses before they even occur. This, in essence, is the utopian vision offered by predictive policing algorithms. These sophisticated mathematical models sift through colossal data sets, historical crime records, demographic information, socio-economic indicators, even weather patterns, public transportation schedules, and social media trends, all to identify potential hotspots of criminal activity, or even individuals deemed at a higher risk of offending or being victimized. The idea is compelling, isn't it? By analyzing patterns from the past, these algorithms aim to forecast where and when future crimes are most likely to happen. Police departments can then deploy resources more efficiently, sending officers to specific neighborhoods or even specific street corners during predicted peak times. Some systems go further, attempting to identify individuals who might be on a trajectory towards criminal behavior, often based on their past interactions with the justice system, their social networks, or even seemingly innocuous data points. The purported benefits are clear: reduced crime rates, optimized resource allocation, and a more proactive, rather than reactive, approach to public safety. Who wouldn't want a safer community, achieved with greater efficiency? But, dear listeners, beneath this gleaming surface of technological progress lies a treacherous current, a profound and deeply concerning risk: the inherent and often invisible bias embedded within these very algorithms. Remember, algorithms are not neutral arbiters of truth. They are reflections of the data they are fed, and that data, in turn, reflects the human biases and historical inequities of our society. If historical policing practices have disproportionately targeted certain communities or demographics, as they demonstrably have in many nations, then an algorithm trained on that data will simply learn and perpetuate those biases. It will identify those same communities as high risk, leading to increased police presence, more arrests, and a self-fulfilling prophecy where those areas continue to show higher crime rates, not necessarily because more crime is occurring, but because more crime is being found due to intensified surveillance. This creates a vicious cycle. Communities already marginalized, already over-policed, find themselves under an even more intense digital microscope. A seemingly objective algorithm can amplify systemic discrimination, labeling entire neighborhoods or groups of people as inherently suspicious, simply because historical data points them out. The black box nature of many of these proprietary algorithms only exacerbates the problem. We often don't know precisely how they arrive at their conclusions, making it incredibly difficult to audit, challenge, or correct for these embedded biases. This isn't just a technical glitch, it's an ethical earthquake, shaking the very foundation. 7-Day Action Plan: Becoming an Informed Citizen. Welcome, thoughtful citizen, to a critical juncture in your journey. We've explored the intricate tapestry of governmental responses to crime, delving into theories, policies, and their far-reaching consequences. But now, it's time to move beyond observation. It's time to become an active, informed participant in shaping the very systems designed to protect and serve us all. This chapter, 7-Day Action Plan: Becoming an Informed Citizen, isn't just another theoretical discussion, it's your practical, hands-on guide to engaging with your local justice system and truly understanding policy on a personal, impactful level. Think of it as a 7-day immersion, a structured yet flexible pathway designed to demystify local governance and empower you with the knowledge to make your voice heard, effectively and meaningfully. Too often, we feel disconnected from the grand machinery of government, especially when it comes to something as complex and emotionally charged as crime and justice. We read headlines, we hear sound bites, but do we truly grasp the local realities, the budget allocations, the specific policy proposals that directly affect our neighborhoods, our families, our sense of safety and freedom? This plan is crafted to bridge that gap, transforming you from a passive observer into an actively informed, engaged citizen. It's about more than just knowledge, it's about connection, understanding, and ultimately, making a difference. Let's embark on this transformative week together. Day 1 and 2, Unearthing Your Local Landscape, Crime Rates and Budget Realities. Our journey begins with data, but not just any data. We're talking about the raw, unfiltered information that paints a true picture of your immediate environment. For Day 1 and Day 2, your mission is to research local crime rates and meticulously examine budget allocations, specifically focusing on the delicate balance between police funding and investment in social services. This isn't about numbers for numbers' sake, it's about understanding the very foundation upon which your community's response to crime is built. First, let's tackle crime rates. Where do you even begin? Forget the sensationalized news reports for a moment. Instead, seek out official sources. Many local police departments publish annual reports or maintain online crime dashboards. City or county government websites are often excellent repositories for this kind of information, providing raw data, sometimes even down to specific neighborhoods or types of offenses. Look for trends. Are violent crimes increasing or decreasing? What about property crimes? How do these rates compare to historical data in your area, or to similarly sized communities elsewhere? Dive deeper than just the headline numbers. Understand the methodology behind the data collection. Are all crimes reported? How are different types of offenses categorized? This initial research isn't just an exercise in statistics, it's an exercise in critical thinking, in seeing past the immediate narrative to the underlying reality. You might uncover some surprising truths, or perhaps confirm long-held suspicions, but you'll do so with empirical backing, not just anecdotal evidence. Now, with a grasp of your local crime landscape, let's pivot to the financial heart of the matter: budget allocations. This is where the rubber truly meets the road, where priorities are quantified and translated into action. Every local government operates on a budget, a document that reflects its values and its vision for the community. Your task is to locate and review your city or county's budget, paying particular attention to the allocations for law enforcement versus social services. This might sound daunting, but most local governments are required to make these documents publicly accessible, often on their official websites under sections like Finance, Budget, or City Council agendas. When you find it, don't be overwhelmed by the sheer volume. Focus on the relevant sections. How much of the total budget is dedicated to the police department? What? Summary: the 3 pillars of response. Welcome, dear listener, to the culmination of our extensive exploration into governmental responses to crime. We've embarked on a 262-minute journey together, traversing complex landscapes of policy, philosophy, and human impact. We've dissected theories, scrutinized historical shifts, and wrestled with the profound ethical dilemmas inherent in how societies manage deviance and protect their citizens. Now, as we stand at this precipice of conclusion, it's time to distill that vast ocean of information into 3 indispensable, memorable takeaways, 3 pillars upon which our understanding should firmly rest, 3 lenses through which we must forever view the state's interaction with crime. These aren't just summaries, they are guiding principles, designed to provoke thought, challenge assumptions, and perhaps inspire a new vision for justice. Our collective odyssey through these intricate territories has revealed patterns, exposed uncomfortable truths, and hopefully, ignited within each of us a deeper, more nuanced comprehension of the immense power and responsibility governments wield in this critical domain. We've ventured into the historical ebb and flow of punitive measures versus rehabilitative ideals, examined the societal pressures that shape policy, and pondered the long-term consequences of decisions made often in the heat of the moment. Now, let us solidify these insights. Our first pillar, perhaps the most critical for truly understanding the very fabric of policy decisions in this arena, reveals this often unspoken truth: governmental response to crime is often overwhelmingly political and profoundly reactionary, rather than purely practical or evidence-based. Think back through the countless examples we've encountered, not just in this series but in our daily lives. The sudden, dramatic shifts in sentencing laws following a particularly heinous, high-profile crime that captures national attention, the ubiquitous tough on crime slogans dominating election cycles, shouted from rostrums and plastered on campaign posters, the media frenzies that so often ignite moral panics, demanding immediate, visible, and often severe action from public officials. These aren't isolated incidents or aberrations, rather, they are the very heartbeat, the underlying rhythm, of how much of our governmental response to crime is conceived, developed, and ultimately implemented. Policy, in this intensely scrutinized and emotionally charged realm, is frequently less about meticulously compiled empirical evidence, long-term sociological studies on efficacy, or even the most practically sound path to genuinely reducing overall crime rates. Instead, it is far more about immediate public appeasement, securing electoral advantage for incumbents and challengers alike, and responding to the powerful, often raw, visceral emotion of fear that crime inevitably generates within a populace. When a shocking or particularly brutal crime makes headlines, the public outcry is not only understandable but profoundly human. There's an innate, universal human desire for safety, for security, for justice to be meted out, and often, for retribution against those who transgress societal norms. Politicians, ever acutely aware of their constituents' anxieties, their own vulnerabilities at the ballot box, and their perpetual need to secure votes and maintain power, often respond with measures that are overtly perceived as strong, decisive, and relentlessly punitive. These responses, while appearing to address the immediate crisis and offering a temporary balm to public anxiety, frequently bypass the deeper, more complex, and systemic issues that consistently contribute to criminal behavior in the first place. They are reactions, swift, highly visible, and often emotionally charged declarations of intent, rather than carefully deliberated, rigorously evidence-based strategies designed for sustainable societal betterment and long-term crime reduction. The prevailing narrative, in these moments of heightened tension, becomes one of simplistic us versus call to action. CTA audit your local system. Welcome, truly engaged listeners, to what I believe is the most crucial part of our journey together in understanding governmental responses to crime. We've spent considerable time dissecting theories, exploring historical precedents, and scrutinizing contemporary approaches. We've peeled back layers of policy, pondered the intentions behind legislation, and examined the often complex, sometimes contradictory, outcomes of our justice systems. But now, it's time to move beyond the intellectual exercise, beyond the passive absorption of information, and into the realm of active, impactful engagement. This isn't just another chapter, it's a personal invitation, a direct call to arms for your mind, your voice, and your commitment to justice. We title this segment, Call to Action, Audit Your Local System, because that's precisely what we need you to do. We're asking you to shift from merely listening to actively observing, from passively absorbing to thoughtfully challenging, and from theoretical understanding to practical application in your very own community. Think about it. We often discuss these grand, overarching systems, the federal mandates, the state-level reforms. But the truth is, justice, in its most immediate and visceral form, unfolds right there, in your town, in your city, in your neighborhood. It's in the local courthouse, the municipal police department, the community outreach programs, and the ordinances that govern daily life. These are the front lines, the places where policy meets people, where theory encounters reality. And it is here that your active participation can make an undeniable difference. For too long, the narrative has been that these systems are too large, too entrenched, too complicated for the average citizen to influence. We're told to trust the experts, to leave it to the professionals. And while expertise is vital, while professional dedication is indispensable, it is the informed, passionate, and persistent voice of the citizen that truly breathes life into the democratic process. It is your perspective, your lived experience, your keen observation, that can illuminate the gaps, expose the inefficiencies, and champion the changes that are truly needed. So, how do we begin this audit? How do we transition from concerned observer to effective agent of change? Let's start with something tangible, something that touches us all, often without us even realizing it. I want to invite you, right now, to engage with a question that can spark profound insight. I want you to consider, with a clear and critical mind, one law in your country, your state, or even your local municipality, that you honestly believe is outdated. Just one. Think about it for a moment. What comes to mind? Is it a law that seems to have no relevance in today's society? Perhaps it's a statute born from a different era, addressing problems that no longer exist, or doing so in a way that is now counterproductive, even harmful. Is it a law that creates unintended consequences, disproportionately affecting certain communities, or simply failing to serve its original purpose? We've all encountered them, haven't we? Those peculiar regulations, those archaic rules that make us scratch our heads and wonder, why is this still on the books? Sometimes they're harmless, a relic of a bygone era. But often, beneath the veneer of antiquity, these outdated laws can have real, detrimental impacts. They can perpetuate injustice, create unnecessary burdens, stifle progress, or simply clog up the system with administrative nonsense. Consider, for instance, laws governing vagrancy or public nuisance that were perhaps designed to address social issues of the Industrial Revolution but now serve primarily to criminalize homelessness and poverty. Or perhaps regulations around specific technologies or industries that haven't kept pace with rapid innovation, creating barriers rather than fostering growth. Maybe it's a prohibition that once seemed logical but is now seen as an infringement on personal liberty or a source of illicit markets. i.e. Thank you for listening to this audiobook. If you found value, meaning, or inspiration in this journey, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next chapter. Your support helps us bring more timeless classics to life. See you in the next reading.